Jean-Louis Lebris de Kerouac, known to the world as Jack Kerouac, was born on March 12, 1922, in the mill town of Lowell, Massachusetts, to French-Canadian parents, Léo Alcide Kerouac and Gabrielle Ange Lévesque, immigrants from Quebec who spoke Joal, a working-class dialect of French. Raised in a devout Catholic household where English was a second language learned only after age 5, Kerouac grew up immersed in the culture of la survivance, the resilient Franco-American ethos of family, faith, and community. His childhood was marked by profound loss. At age 4, his older brother Gérard died of rheumatic fever at 9, an event that haunted Kerouac lifelong and inspired his novel Visions of Gérard, portraying the boy as a saintly guardian angel. He also had an older sister, Caroline. The family faced financial hardship during the Great Depression. His father's print shop was ruined by flooding, plunging Léo into gambling and alcoholism, while Gabrielle worked in a shoe factory. These early traumas, paternal volatility, sibling death, and economic struggle, forged Kerouac's sensitivity to suffering and his complex bond with his mother, whom he called Mamère, and who remained the emotional center of his life. As a talented athlete, Kerouac earned a football scholarship to Columbia University, but his college years were turbulent. He broke his leg early, clashed with coaches, and dropped out, drifting into New York's bohemian scene. There he formed pivotal friendships that defined the Beat generation, with Allen Ginsberg, a lifelong confidant and correspondent whose poetic energy complemented Kerouac's prose, William S. Burroughs, whose intellectual edge influenced his experimentation, and especially Neal Cassady, the charismatic, restless force who became Kerouac's muse as Dean Moriarty in On the Road. Cassady's manic vitality and cross-country adventures with Kerouac fueled the mythic road trips that captured a generation's search for meaning, freedom, and spiritual kicks amid post-war conformity. Kerouac's romantic life was as restless and unstable as his travels. His first marriage to Edie Parker in 1944 was pragmatic. Her parents bailed him out of jail after he was arrested as a material witness in a murder involving friend, Lucien Carr, on condition of marriage. It lasted mere months and was annulled. In 1950, he married Joan Haverty, with whom he lived briefly in Manhattan. During this period, he completed the scroll draft of On the Road. Haverty became pregnant, but Kerouac, influenced by his mother's devout Catholicism and his own financial woes, initially denied paternity and left her. Their daughter, Jan Kerouac, born in 1952, grew up in poverty. Kerouac acknowledged her only after a blood test when she was 9 and provided minimal support. Father and daughter met just twice, their relationship strained by his denial and alcoholism. Jan later became a writer herself, chronicling her nomadic, troubled life in novels like Baby Driver. Kerouac's third marriage, in 1966, to Stella Sampras, a childhood friend from Lowell and sister of a deceased wartime buddy, provided stability in his final years as he cared for his ailing mother after her stroke. Alcoholism shadowed Kerouac from adolescence, escalating amid fame's pressures after. On the Road's 1957 publication catapulted him to reluctant beat icon status. He struggled with the spotlight, often appearing drunk in interviews, and retreated into isolation, conservative politics, and deepening dependence on whiskey. Living alternately with his mother in various homes, New York, Florida, California, he produced prolific work but suffered breakdowns and health decline. On October 25, 1969, at age 47, Kerouac died in St. Petersburg, Florida, from an internal hemorrhage caused by esophageal varices and cirrhosis, exacerbated by lifelong heavy drinking and possibly an untreated abdominal injury from a bar fight. Buried in Lowell's Edson Cemetery after a traditional Catholic funeral, he left a complicated legacy, a visionary chronicler of American restlessness, whose personal demons, rooted in childhood grief, maternal devotion, fractured relationships, and addiction, mirrored the raw humanity he poured into his spontaneous prose. The Beat generation, a countercultural movement that emerged in the United States during the late 1940s and reached its zenith in the 1950s, was characterized by a rebellion against conventional societal norms. Among the luminaries of this movement, Jack Kerouac stands as a towering figure whose work encapsulates the essence of beat philosophy and aesthetics. His most famous work, On the Road, not only serves as a narrative of his personal experiences, but also as a poignant exploration of themes such as freedom, spontaneity, and the quest for identity. This essay aims to analyze Kerouac's contribution to literature and culture, examining how his writing style, thematic concerns, and the socio-political context of his time shape both his work and the legacy of the Beat generation. Born in 1922 in Lowell, Massachusetts, to French-Canadian immigrant parents, Jack Kerouac's early life was steeped in a rich cultural milieu that would later influence his literary voice. His upbringing in a bilingual household, coupled with his deep love for literature, particularly the works of Walt Whitman and Ernest Hemingway, created a backdrop for his unique style of writing. However, it was his experiences during World War II and his subsequent interactions with fellow writers and artists in New York City that catalyzed his transformation into an author of note. Kerouac's early writings, while indicative of a burgeoning literary talent, do not foreshadow the groundbreaking work that would follow. His breakthrough came with On the Road, a semi-autobiographical novel that chronicles a series of cross-country trips taken with friends Sal Paradise, Kerouac himself, and Dean Moriarty, based on his friend Neil Cassidy. This novel became the defining text of the Beat generation, embodying the restless spirit of a generation that sought authenticity and deeper meaning beyond the confines of post-war American conformity. One of the defining features of Kerouac's writing is his embrace of spontaneity, a concept he famously termed spontaneous prose. This approach is characterized by a free-flowing stream of consciousness style that eschews traditional narrative structures and grammatical conventions. It is through this method that Kerouac captures the immediacy of experience, enabling readers to inhabit the tumultuous lives of his characters fully. In On the Road, Kerouac's prose mimics the rhythm of jazz music, which he adored and frequently invoked in his work. The novel's structure, or lack thereof, mirrors the fluidity and improvisation of jazz performances, allowing moments of intensity and introspection to coexist. For instance, while driving across the vast American landscape, the characters experience an unfiltered connection to their surroundings, navigating both physical and existential terrains. This connection is epitomized in Kerouac's descriptions of the American landscape. Cities, deserts, and mountains, used not merely as backdrops but as integral components of the narrative that contribute to the characters' journeys. Moreover, Kerouac's focus on the mundane yet profound moments of life exemplifies his ability to draw meaning from simplicity. Through his lens, a roadside diner, a starry night, or a spontaneous conversation transforms into a transcendent experience. The character's pursuit of freedom is not just a physical journey but a philosophical quest for authenticity, truth, and self-realization. At the heart of Kerouac's writings is the relentless quest for identity, as his characters grapple with the multifaceted nature of the self within the construct of American society. The diversity of experiences presented in On the Road reflects the notion of a fragmented identity, as individuals navigate the complexities of belonging, ambition, and disillusionment. This search for identity is intimately tied to the themes of freedom and spontaneity that underpin the entire Beat ethos. Kerouac, like many of his contemporaries, also grappled with existential questions, exploring the intersection of spirituality and materialism. His interest in Eastern religions, particularly Buddhism, further enriched this exploration. In works like The Dharma Bums, Kerouac presents the idea that spiritual fulfillment must precede material success. His character, J.F. Ryder, based on Gary Snyder, embodies this tension, advocating for a life of simplicity and mindfulness, in stark contrast to the consumerist tendencies of mainstream society. Kerouac's spiritual exploration is not merely an intellectual pursuit. It reflects the deep anxieties and yearnings of a generation disillusioned by war and societal expectations. The characters often seek out spiritual experiences in nature, forming bonds with one another that transcend conventional relationships. This emphasis on camaraderie highlights the importance of community in the quest for meaning, as characters embark on journeys together, supporting and challenging one another in equal measure. To fully understand Kerouac's impact and the significance of his work, it is essential to consider the socio-political context of the era. The post-World War II United States was marked by an overwhelming sense of conformity, materialism, and the anxiety of the Cold War. Prevailing social norms dictated a conventional path centered on consumerism, suburban living, and a staunch adherence to the American dream. Against this backdrop, the Beat generation emerged as a radical alternative, challenging societal expectations and advocating for a more authentic way of life. Kerouac and his contemporaries, including Allen Ginsberg and William S. Burroughs, used their work as a vehicle for social critique, addressing issues such as racial inequality, sexual freedom, and anti-establishment sentiments. The Beats were not merely anti-materialists, they were visionary writers experimenting with form, technique, and subject matter, seeking to articulate the inchoate feelings of their generation. Kerouac's depictions of the American landscape and culture reveal deep-rooted contradictions and injustices, illuminating the struggles faced by marginalized communities. His innovative narrative strategies serve to engage readers in a dialogue about the meaning of freedom and the limitations imposed by society. Furthermore, the cultural upheaval of the 1960s, marked by civil rights movements, anti-war protests, and the rise of countercultural movements, can be traced back to the groundwork laid by the Beat writers. The radical ideas espoused by Kerouac and his peers inspired a generation of activists and artists who sought to reshape societal structures. Thus, Kerouac's legacy extends beyond literature. It becomes part of a larger cultural movement advocating for individual liberty and social justice. Jack Kerouac's contributions to American literature and culture are profound and multifaceted, encapsulating the spirit of the Beat generation in a manner that continues to resonate today. Through his innovative writing style, exploration of identity, and socio-political critique, Kerouac crafted a narrative that challenges readers to reflect on their own lives, desires, and the society in which they exist. His work serves as a reminder of the importance of spontaneity, authenticity, and the pursuit of deeper meaning in a world often dominated by conformity and superficiality. The legacy of Jack Kerouac is not merely confined to the pages of his novels. It persists as a call to embrace the complexity of the human experience, a challenge to seek out one's truth in an ever-evolving landscape. Through his bold experimentation with form and content, Kerouac carved a space for future generations of writers and thinkers to explore the intricacies of existence with passion, sincerity, and a relentless spirit of inquiry. Thus, his place within the pantheon of American literature remains unassailable, serving as both an inspiration and a beacon of hope for all those who seek to live authentically in a world replete with contradictions.